This is Miss Guinn, and today I am going to be going over the notes for multiplying decimals by decimals. So please follow along and write out the notes that I write and work out the problems. You will be turning these in. Okay, so multiplying decimals by decimals is very similar to multiplying decimals by whole numbers. It's just with one little twist. So let's go ahead and start. How do you multiply a decimal by a decimal? So here are the steps. Step number 1, you're going to go ahead and multiply just like you normally would. Again, you are going to ignore the decimals. When you're working out a problem with decimals, when you're multiplying them, you just pretend like they're not even there until the very last step. Okay, so once you've multiplied your problem the entire way, the second and last step is going to be to count how many numbers come after the decimal. Just like we did when we multiplied decimals by whole numbers. Count how many total numbers come after the decimal point, and that's going to be the same amount you need for your answer. Okay, so count how many numbers come after the decimal, and that's the same amount of numbers that you're going to need after the decimal in your answer. Okay, so let's go ahead and try our first example. Example 1 says we have 9/10 times 5/10. Now both of these have the same number of digits. These both have, this one has 2 numbers, so does this one. So it doesn't really matter which one you put on top. So I'm just going to write it like it's written. So 9/10 times 5/10. Okay, so basically you're going to multiply it out like you normally would, pretend like it's really just 9 times 5. 5 times 9 gives you 45. 5 times 0 is 0, plus 4 would be 4. Don't forget when you go to the next row you need your 0 placeholder. 0 times 9 would be 0, and then 0 times 0 again is 0. Add those up. And then here's the change from what we did the other day. There is, on the top row, there is one number that comes after the decimal point. In the second row, there is also one number that comes after your decimal point. So you need to add those together. 1 plus 1 means that there are a total of 2 numbers that come after decimal points. So in your answer, you need 2 numbers after the decimal point. So your answer is actually 45 hundredths. Okay. All right, let's try the second one. Example 2, we have 4.2 times 6.7. Again, they both have 2 digits, so it doesn't matter which one goes on top or on bottom, so I'm just going to write it like it's shown. So 4.2 times 6.7. Okay, so basically, again, you ignore the decimal to the very end. It's just like you're saying 42 times 67. So 7 times 2 is 14. 7 times 4 would be 28, plus 1 makes 29. We've got a 0 placeholder. 6 times 2 would be 12. 6 times 4 is 24, plus 1 makes 25. Okay, so go ahead and add those together. 4 plus 0 is 4. 9 plus 2 is 11. 1 plus 2 is 3, plus another 5 makes 8. And then 2 by itself. Okay, now again, we're ready for the decimals now that we're done multiplying. There is one number that comes after the decimal point on top, There is only one number that comes after the decimal point on the second row. So together, 1 plus 1 means that there are a total of 2 numbers that come after decimals. So we need 2 numbers to come after the decimal point in our answer. So you should have 28 and 1400ths. Okay. Third example, we have 3 and 4800ths times 2 and 4/10. This one does matter which one goes on top. Remember, we said we wanted the number that has the most number of digits to always go on top. So I'm going to keep the 3.48 on as my first number, and then the 2 and 4/10 below. I'm going to give you a few moments to work that out on your own. Okay, so let's check and see where we are. First, you should have started with 8 times 4, which would be 32. 4 times 4 is 16, plus 3 makes 19. 4 times 3 is 12, plus 1 makes that 13. Don't forget, when you go to the next row, you need a 0 placeholder. 2 times 8 is 16. 2 times 4 is 8, plus another one is 9. And then 2 times 3 is 6. We're ready to add those rows together. 2. 9 plus 6 is 15. 1 plus 3 is 4. 4 plus 9 makes 13. And then that should be 8. Okay, and then we need to count up all the numbers that come after decimal points. Here are our decimal points. We've got a total of 1, 2, 3 numbers that come after a decimal point. So you need 1, 2, 3 at the end of your problem. So your answer would be 8 and 352 thousandths. Okay. Last example, we have 24 hundredths times 14 and 7/10. Again, we want to make sure to put the longer number at the beginning of the problem. So I'm going to put 14.7 since it has more digits than just the 24 hundredths as my first number. So we've got 14.7 times 24 hundredths. Notice how when I'm multiplying, I'm not lining up the decimals, I'm not adding zeros, I'm just kind of writing the numbers, you know, lined up on the right side. Okay, so go ahead and work it out. Remember to ignore the decimals till the very end. I'll give you a little time to do that. Okay, so first you would start with the 7 times 4, which is 28. 4 times 4 is 16, plus 2 makes 18. 4 times 1 is 4, plus another one makes 5. Okay, next row, we need a 0 placeholder. 2 times 7 is 14. 2 times 4 is 8, plus 1 makes 9. and then 2 times 1 is 2. When we add those up, we should have 8, 12, 15, and 3. And then there are 1, 2, 3 numbers that come after a decimal point, so you need a total of 3 numbers at the end of your answer. 3 and 528 thousandths. Okay, go ahead and flip over and let's look at how we might see these in a word problem. Okay, first problem says a nutritional label indicates the 1 serving of Apple Crisp oatmeal has 2.5 grams of fat. How many grams of fat are there in 3 75 hundredths servings? So here is your serving amount. Each serving has 2.5 grams of fat, so we want to see how much total grams of fat there would be if you ate 3.75 servings. So this is a multiplication problem. Again, you want to put the larger number on top. So in this case, that would be the 3 75 hundredths. 2 5/10 would go below. We're going to multiply this out, ignoring the decimal points until the very end. So 5 times 5 would be 25. 5 times 7 is 35, plus 2 is 37. 5 times 3 is 15, plus 3 makes 18. Ready to go to the next row. Don't forget the 0 placeholder. 2 times 5 is 10. 2 times 7 is 14, plus 1 is 15. And 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7. Okay, now we want to be careful when we line up our numbers. All right, so go ahead and add 5, 7, 13, 9. Okay, so that's a total of 3 numbers that come at the end of your problem. So that's our final answer. We have 9 375 thousandths grams of fat in the 3.75 servings. Okay, so I think we get the idea. I'm just going to read you the other 3 word problems and you're going to work them out on your own. Word problem number 2, we have a steamboat that travels 36.5 miles each day. How far will it travel in 6.5 days? So to set that up, put your longer number on the top and multiply it by the number of days. And that's all we have to do for that one. Third question, it tells you that pears cost 98 cents per pound and apples cost $1.05 per pound. Mr. Bonilla bought 3.75 pounds of pears and 2.1 pounds of apples. So how much did he pay for the pears and apples all together? So you first should figure out how much you're going to spend on pears. Then you want to see what your cost is for apples. And then at the end, you're going to find the totals all together. So it says he bought 3.75 pounds of pears. That cost 98 cents each. Apples were $1.05 per pound, and he bought 2.1 pounds. So we need to work each of these equations out, and then our last step, since we want it all together, is going to be to add those 2 answers together. And then the final problem says Alex went to fill up his new car with gasoline at the gas station where he stopped. Gasoline cost $3.24 per gallon. If his car needs 15 2/10 gallons of gas, then what is the total amount he will have to pay to fill up? Okay, so we've got our price per gallon. We know how many gallons of gasoline he needs in all. We're going to multiply those. Again, it doesn't matter which one you put on top because these both have 3 numbers. So you could do 3.24 times 15.2, or you could do 15.2 times $3.24.